Good talk, everyone. Uh, Welcome to the Sipurey Shem of Sichos Haran, Shir Pashas Balak, magical Pashas. It's so different from all the Pashas in the Torah. It's really is the only Pasha where things are actually taking place practically almost throughout the Pasha from a Gosha point of view. The Jews are not, Israel are not, where things are happening, but this is what's happening outside. And obviously there are many things to say about this particular portion. It's jam-packed with details, with lessons, with all these things. But I told my wife the thing that really the two things that really struck me. First is a dichotomy between how we Jews see reality between us and ourselves. No, we're bickering with this, with that, we're arguing with one another. There's kindness, emotion, this, Korach, whatever it is. It seems like almost like a colony of I don't know. Then you see Bilam. Bilam looks at Am-Yisrael from the outside. Initially, the whole thing is about hatred. Balak is the king of Moav, and Moav had no argument with Am-Yisrael. Am-Yisrael were ordered not to start up with Moav, not with Moav and not on Ammon, because this is the inheritance of the children of Lot. Still, he hires Bilam to curse the Jews. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu turns over the curses of Bilam into brachas, you can see what is the flip side of where they're coming from. In other words, when the Goyim approach the Jews with hatred and with jealousy and whatever it is that they do, on the flip side, you can see that they actually, had they would have allowed themselves to see. In fact, if we would have allowed ourselves to see, take a look at the way the Bilam is waxing poetically about Am-Yisrael, about their Kedusha, about their tznius, about where they're coming from, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and how he wishes that his own end would be like theirs. I mean, it's a description of exquisite nation, of an unbelievable, exalted sanctity and beauty. And we obviously don't see it. The Goyim see it, but they're so jealous at it, so it comes out as hatred. But when Hashem allows them to switch it over to positive, this is what they see, because this is what we are. So that's one Nakuda. The second Nakuda is, being that we have finished Baruch Hashem, Torah Chafalov, and everyone takes away from the Torah something that it's like, no, Torah Chafalov is jam-packed with illuminating points. But the fact that on one side you have the sanctity of the seven candles and Sichos and marriage, Kedushin, Shos and Mishnah. On the other side, you have the Law Aleinu Shivas and Avelos, you have the Yibum and Chalitza, you have Miriam going outside in the desert from Mitzrayim, leprosy that comes of Lashon Hara. And when the Torah ultimately talks about makif and makif to a makif, an encircling intelligence and a circle above a circle of intelligence. So nachamu, nachamu ani. There is a very peculiar phenomenon that is taking place. We say that every tzaddik is singed from the makif of his friend. And this is based upon a Gemara that says the face of Moshe is like the sun. The face of Yeshua is like the moon. This is the lot of the tzaddikim in Olam Haba. The Gemara concludes, Oila oisa cherpa, oila oisa busha. Woe to such a derision, woe to such a shame. You're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, you're talking about Yeshua. Every tzaddik gets singed from the chuppah, from the makifin of his friend. You're talking about two tzaddikim. And one tzaddik is ashamed in Olam Haba from his friend. And the question is why? Well, Baruch Hashem, this is what I was able to do. He's a tzaddik, it's called tzaddik, he's singed from the chuppah of his friend. We're talking about tzaddikim here. So we mentioned that, and you can see it also in this parsha. Bilam knows no shame. And not only this, on top of it, he wants covenant. In the very beginning, when Kadosh Baruch Hu tells them not to go with the emissaries of Balak, he says, "Don't bless Am Yisrael, don't curse them. I don't need your blessing, don't need your just." What does he tell them? He said to them, "Hashem didn't let me go with you," implying, "Who the heck are you?" Pipsqueaks. That's not my covenant. You're talking a person who was having relations with his donkey. This is how he brought upon himself the Torah that enabled him to reach whatever he was able to reach. Yeah, it's not up mine. So Balak sends even more respected, bigger ministers to see him. To ask him to come. So Hashem tells him, okay, that which, if they come to call you, go with them, but whatever I'm telling you, this is what you're going to tell them. This is what you're going to say. And along the way, the tumor of Bilam reaches such a height because Baruch Hu does an unbelievable miracle and opens up the mouth of the she-donkey. And the donkey is the one who admonishes Bilam. They're asking why are you riding a donkey? He says, nah, it's just like my horse is not. She says, what do you mean? You always rode on me. In any way, shape, form, whatever it is you can. I mean, I don't know. I mean, all of you obviously lived in Mongolia. The Goyim have an immense inflated pride, but they don't know Shem. When they want something, it's mine. Then you have Moshe Rabbeinu. When after Bilam gives an eitzah that Am Yisrael, that the Moabites will make their daughters hefker to go and seduce Am Yisrael. 24,000 Jews die because of that. No shame. Absolutely no shame. And Moshe Rabbeinu is standing there, and Am Yisrael is standing there, and Moshe Rabbeinu does not remember the halacha that anybody who cohabitates with a goiter during the act, zealots, attack him. Zealots may kill them right then and there, not later, not a moment before. And if they come and ask you what you should do, so Moshe Rabbeinu forgets for this halacha, because this halacha, the only one who remembers is Pinchas. So without getting to the reasons why Moshe Rabbeinu remembers, forgets this halacha, comes the what is their reaction? What is Moshe Rabbeinu's reaction? What are the people's reaction? What is Am Yisrael's reaction? There is a travesty that's taking place in front of everyone. And everybody's standing at the opening of the tent and they're crying. Moshe Rabbeinu forgot the halacha, they're crying. This is what their reaction is. It has a lot to do with the parsha, with the Sichos Haran of this week. That which we learned in Likutei Moharan, Torah Chaf Aleph 21. And that which we're going to learn in the Sichos Haran of this week. Ultimately, when you get into Avodas Hashem, there will be times when you're going to file spiritually chapter 11. You're going to lose your head. You're going to lose, hey. The Nakuda that I came up with me in when we finished the Likutei Moharan, is that the shame, if you lost everything, if you fell off the wagon, physically, spiritually, you don't have anything. You don't have a feel. You don't have. Hold on to the shame. Hold on to the shame. If you let go of the shame, you're a goner. Then you're out. As long as you hold on to the shame, that means that you have shaychus with that madrega. Because why are you ashamed? You say you're not ashamed of the fact that the bird can fly and you can't. But it's not your job. It's nothing to do with you. You're only ashamed of something that you really should be able to, or really should do, and you don't, or you didn't. That is when the shame comes. Rabbeinu taught us in this Torah that a shame is a connection. The fact that you're embarrassed by your lack of devotion, your lack of learning, your lack of piety, your lack or whatever, it's because you are shaykh to it, because you are connected to it, because this is your Indian, this is your zach, this is your business. Otherwise, you wouldn't feel ashamed. Nobody tells you, you should feel bad about not being the world champion triathlon or whatever. Nothing to do with you. The shame of Olam Haba that the tzaddikim will free from one another is because they have shaykhs to it. If only I worked harder, if only I fought my yetzer harder, I would have gotten there as well. It's a shame, b'kedusha. Let's get to the Sipurey Baal Shem Tov for this Motzei Shabbos. Tomorrow, Shivasa B'Tammuz, it's a Yom Tzom. Baal Shem Tov said before his Chevra Kadisha, Rabbeinu says that Kadosh Baruch Hu sent the Baal Shem Tov. He had, this kind of a group that guarded him, that enabled such a holiness as the Baal Shem HaKadosh, to prevail in this world. So he said, through the avodah of Mesirut Nefesh on Avos Yisrael, if you work to gain Avos Yisrael and Mesirut Nefesh, you'll be zoicha to a revelation in your neshama that it's greater from the greatest amkan, the greatest learner in Torah, in Avodas Hashem, in Sichos Elokus. In other words, you will reach a field in Sichos Elokus and Avodas Hashem greater than the biggest London. Baal Shem Tov said that a perek tilim with a hearty excitement, a toil and going through something, really work to do a favor for another Jew. Gashmius and Ruchnius and Havas Yisrael. These three things. Tehillim, Bislavos, working hard, the doing it, not just, you don't mind doing a favor to somebody else. No. You're working for it. And Havas Yisrael says these are the keys to all the locks of the chambers of Rachamim, of Refuah, of Yeshua, and all the gates of Parnasa. And the last one that we'll see, Rabbi Shem Tov said in the pasuk, "K'mayim apanim lapanim keleva adam ha'adam." The very same way that the water reflects the face you see in the water reflect your face. That's the way the heart of a person reflects in the other person. Derech Moshe, when a person stands by the river, you can see the shadow of that person in the water. When a person makes itself smaller, the shadow becomes smaller. In other words, he comes closer to the water. The more a person makes himself smaller until his face reaches to the water. That's the way the shadow of the person in the water, the reflection of the water, comes all the way up to his face. He says the same way when a person puts his heart closer to his friend makes himself smaller and coming to him. And the more a person makes himself smaller until he can do no more, his friend will do the same and they will become beloved friends. The last one, Mikol Pshayat from all my crimes, retrieve me. Cherpas novel altasimeni, the shame of a wretched, do not put me. The Baal Shem Tov said this possible. That if you saw a person that made an aver, judge him favorably. And with this, you're also saving yourself from the din. Because when a person sees something wretched in his friend, he should know that he himself has an aspect of that in himself as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't have seen it. And when you find a schos to your friend, it'll be schos for you as well. And really, this is a big nisayon. This is something Rabbeinu said in Likutei Haran. It's the big nisayon because it is mekubal. This is a very famous sikha of the Baal Shem Tov, that no judgment is ever decreed on a person unless he himself makes this decree himself. And obviously, if they ask him, if they ask him, you did this, what is your decree? Of course, he'll say nothing, But what they do is they show him another person who did the same affair. Really, it is the affair that you did. And the way that you judge that person, that verdict that you decree on that person, is this a person, Chas v'Chalila, is sealing the decree on himself. Rabbeinu said it's a very big sakana, very big sakana. When you see something, first of all, keep your mouth shut. And then think, what kind of schus can you find? Because you never know what it is you're actually looking at. So let's take a look in the Sichos Haran for this week. And just a second. I don't see it. Just a second. Just a second. Okay, got it. Here we go. Oops, we're all the way. This will be right here. Sichos Haran 79. 79 test. Rabbeinu speaks here about the reality. Maksha Adam, what happens? When a person starts getting close, gets into the service of Hashem. And to get closer, let me just make it a little bit bigger for you so you can see it more easily. Hold on. And to come closer to the tzaddik emes, what happens is that all kinds of licentious thoughts and confusions come into his mind. And you're looking at you're saying, wait a minute, it's just like time out. It's supposed to be the other way around. And being a good guy, what's going on? So Rabbeinu says this is like a muscle. When you take a pot of water and the water looks clean, it looks clear, no problem, it's clean water. Then when you put that pot by the fire and it starts to boil, then the water gets cloudy and it lifts up all the junk that was in the water. And it comes up. And somebody has to stand on top of it and remove all the dirt, all the impurities that was in the water. In the beginning, it looked like the water were totally clear. They were clean. What's the problem? The same thing is happening when a person comes into a meditation. The good and the bad are so thoroughly mixed. And because it's so mixed and it's so together, you don't see the bad at all because they're totally mixed. But then when a person gets into Avodas Hashem and gets into close to the Tzaddik Emes, then he starts to purify. And you know, the good starts to come out and the bad falls. Then all the impurities and all the dirt and all the bad starts to come up. And like in that particular mashal, there has to be somebody that is standing here and skimming off the top all the dirt and impurities that come up to the top, that floats to the top. And then a person will become really clean and clear. Rabbeinu says it is possible to get out all the impurities, to filter out all the impurities from the people that were steeped in Gashmis. And then they come to close to Kodesh Baruch Hu. So, but what will happen is that when you take off that dirt all at once, together with the dirt, you'll take some of the moich, because everything from the seichel of that person, because it's so intermixed. That's why it has to be slowly, one step at a time. Person has to purify himself one step at a time. This is the way that Avodas Hashem starts. That's the way Hashem goes. You come in and you figure, you know, I'm going to be good. I'm really going to be good. From now on, I take upon myself that, you know, I want to be good, and you do it. And suddenly, you feel like you're getting a 2x4 in your face. I mean, I'm trying to be good. They're very deep inyanim, which are steeped in this particular principle. Before you start in your Avodas Hashem, everything looks. I don't know if you have had conversations with people who are far from Yiddishkeit, and you told them, like, what's going to be with you? Why did you do tshuva? And they said, what do you want? I'm a good person. What am I doing wrong? Everything is okay. What are you talking about? I'm not doing anything that, I should. No reason I should worry about it. It's only when you're coming closer and you're starting a process of Avodas Hashem, the process is a process where you're being cooked. that quote unquote cooking process you're going through is the process with which from the bad and the good separate. They separate and the bad comes up. This is what you see. As you will see Mitzvah Shem in Sichos, in Torah Chafei, Rabbeinu talks about it at great length. And he says that this is a very, very common mistake amongst the Hasidim, amongst people who want to come close to Kadosh Baruch Hu, that it seems to them that suddenly, whoa, I thought I was already over this nonsense. I thought that, and suddenly the thoughts that come to my head, the fantasy that come to my head. I feel that like I'm losing my mind, like on one hand, in Olam Haba, there's no forgetfulness before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The ultimate, Yom Adin, everything will come out. Those thoughts that I'm thinking, that lightheadedness that I had maybe in a conversation with a female that is like, I don't know, physiotherapist or doctor or this, and I'm just being cute, whatever it is. It's going to come out. Maybe the people around me don't realize what's going on, but I do. I know what I'm doing. What's going on with me? So Rabbeinu says a person may think that he fell from his madriga. I can't believe it. And I was like, it's a disaster. Rabbeinu says, no. What happened is that you went to a higher level. And in that higher level, that dirt, that impurity that is mixed up with your goodness separates and comes up. And somebody that's a tzaddik, it has to remove it from you, little by little. There are quite a few sichos that Rabbeinu speaks about this particular principle. One of the things that he's saying is, when Shem Bar Yochai came out of the cave after 12 years, and they saw a person who was plowing the field. So Shem Bar Yochai said, how is it possible that a person is forsaking Chaya Olam and he's dealing with Chaya Shah, just something for this world? And he looked at that person. The Gemara used the word nosam ba'einov. He put his eyes into him. V'nasa gal shel atzamos, and it becomes a pile of bones. We spoke about this a few times. Baskal came out and said, Shimon, I'm sorry, when you came out to destroy my world. Go back to the cave. They go back to the cave for another year. They come out the 13th year. They see an old Jew running with two twigs of hadassim. So they ask him, why are you running with two hadassim? So it's Erev Shabbos. So he says, one keneged zachor and one keneged shamo. Chavet Shabbos. So Shem Bar Yochai says to his son, it's enough for this world that you and me are in it. Let the other people be what they are. This is an amazing istaklis. Rabbeinu says, what's the pshat of Nasim Ba'inov? That he gives his eyes into that person, he puts his eyes into that person, it becomes a pile of bones. Rabbeinu says, what happens is that the tzaddik gives that person the tzaddik's eyes. Nasam boy, the tzaddik gives in him, and that particular person, the tzaddik einov, the tzaddik's eyes. What happens is that that person, asad gal, which means there is an exposure of atzamos, is from the root of atzmius, of his real self. Rabbeinu said something chilling. He says for a person to be exposed to who he really is in one fell swoop, Rabbeinu says there's no bigger punishment than that. That's one of the reasons why this process has to be taken slowly. If you find yourself that you started in Avodas Hashem and you fell flat on your face, you're starting to have all these thoughts, this Haran, this, sometimes it gets into meisim. It's deeds. And it's just like, what's going on with me? What you should know, that's what Rabbeinu says in this week's Sichos, that this is just the dirt that was mixed in together with your good. So you couldn't see it until now. Which means when suddenly, filth, literally filth, my filth comes up in front of my eyes. It's a sign that you manage to separate the good from the bad to that degree, the bad comes up in order to be removed. Not for you to daven for it, not for you to ask Kadosh Baruch Hu for it. In order for you to come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is what Reb Nosson said on this week's Parsha. When Bilam says one of the attributes of this nation, and Am levada diishkon v'goyim lo yischasa, a nation that resides in total solitary and does not consider the goyim. Reb Nosson says this is a nation that goes to make his bodiness, that goes into a room between him and the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and is pouring his heart out and asking Kodesh Baruch Hu to know Shalom. What are we going to do with me? What are we going to do with me? It's like, it's not even funny anymore. What the heck are we going to do with me? I keep on doing the same old folly again, again. Uvagoyim lo yischashav means a person continuously separates himself from the shtusim of the goyim. What do you care who won the World Series? Well, look. Well, what? Well, listen, I'm not holding yet by that. Okay. You're not holding yet by that madriga. But you can at least come to Kodesh Baruch Hu and ask him to come up to that madriga. Beg him to come to that madriga. when you see your own bad coming up to your eyes, a flood of thoughts, a flood of temptations that up to a few minutes ago did not exist, it's a simon that you have gone into this. This is your Nisayan. This is your own bed. It's coming up to be cleaned. In the Sikh of the Baal Shem Tov that we learned today, Baal Shem Tov says, when you see somebody else doing the Avera, be careful how you judge them, because what you're seeing with your own eyes is yourself. If you didn't have a smidgen of that in you, of this Avera in you, you wouldn't have seen this person doing it. If you somebody doing Chilul Shabbos, that means that you have a Nakud of Chilul Shabbos in you. Check yourself out. Bashan says, be judge that person of kafskos, because you're really judging yourself. So here we start the period of 3 weeks. Reb Nosson writes an unbelievable, I don't know if he writes in a letter or whatever it is. I saw it in Through Fire and Water of Rav Kramer. Reb Nosson says, I can't really open up my heart and cry to HaKadosh Baruch Hu except during the 3 weeks and every night by Chatzos. It's the 3 weeks I can actually open up my heart and cry for the loss of Pesach, for the loss of the tzaddikim, to cry for where am I in this world. You know, the year after Rabbeinu was Balak, you know, during the 3 weeks, it's the minig Arizal is to say Tikkun Chatzos also during the day, Chatzos, midday. Reb Nosson had to put himself in the cellar of his house because he was crying so loud that people in the street would be startled. So he had to hide himself somewhere. He was crying so much. After that year, you know, the year of Rabbeinu Sistakis. Now we're getting the opportunity to open up our hearts. Opening up our hearts is not complaining to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Is not complaining to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Look at me again, I don't feel anything. Can you believe that? We already know you don't feel anything. You know, really we're supposed to be I don't feel a thing. Use this time of the 3 weeks to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to feel. To feel the Tzara Shechina. If you don't feel, you don't feel. What can you do? I'm sure we'll get the chance to talk about it and the sure to come. Tomorrow, as you know, is a fast day, Shabbos Thomas. Now the Shabbosim are going to get earlier and earlier tonight. Today is the latest Shabbos of the year. So it'll be easier for us to start closer to 9 o'clock so we can finish in time. So B'ezrat Hashem, I mean, I wish everybody an easy fast. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see you all on Monday night. And when we get back to Sipurey Macy's, Ma'aseh Ma'avedes Bas Melech, Be'ezrat Hashem.